All right, so this is going to be the setup tonight. Hey everyone, my name is Levi, and I'm here to talk about Last of Us Episode 4. I'm back in my vehicle. My daughter is doing her driver's ed, and I'm waiting in the car, recording a video, drinking iced coffee. It's not even black, real coffee like a man should drink. It's vanilla. While she is out and about endangering lives on them streets. We'll get right into it. Episode 4 was a good episode, so it's going to be a shorter review. Also, the episode was shorter. I think it ran about 48 minutes, as opposed to the last episode, which was at least an hour. Because, they needed to give all that relevant and important information for characters that they killed off, and we won't see again. There were a couple things in the last episode I didn't touch on that I may touch on in this review. Ellie being a psycho killer, stabbing that infected that she found in the basement in the eye, just all slow and methodical and taking a little too much pleasure in the process. And I may have been wrong in my assessment of how they were going to treat gun handling in this series. The episode starts out with Ellie playing with her gun, which is never good. That's a big no-no. That's how people get hurt. And I thought for sure this would be the scene leading into something terrible that happens later. And in a way it is, but not in the way I expected. But shows her playing with the gun, points it, and, tries to act tough. This is a classic trope, is this idea that guns give people a sense of unearned power, that suddenly it makes them feel tough and strong. And that may be the case, that if you're an ignorant person who's never touched a gun, you think that holding the gun gives you that sense of power. But if you've ever fired a gun in your life and you know the danger involved in that, you don't mess around unless you're a complete idiot. And considering Ellie's little stabby in the eye thing, she might have some issues with violent behavior. I don't know. So this episode returns to form, as the first and second episode were fairly generous with their references and even complete lines of dialogue from the game. After we see Ellie playing with her gun, she joins Joel, and in this episode they begin to really build a connection. And it starts with puns. Ellie brings out a book of puns and begins to read them to Joel, who seems to find them annoying. This is something that they've gotten completely wrong. Any man over a certain age finds terrible puns to be the reason for living. This is just the way it is. And the next scene is pretty close to a direct one-for-one from the game, where Ellie finds the male nudie magazine in the backseat of the truck. I'm pretty sure most of the dialogue, if not all of it, is right from the game. Also, that is pretty much the extent of Bill's gayness in the game. Let's build a whole episode on it. They're driving across the country, seeing all sorts of things. They have some conversation. Joel decides to pull off the side of the road, cut across the field into the trees, where they set up camp. And then they show Ellie eating. I don't know if they want her to be hated. Her character is kind of annoying, not super likable, but they may have pushed it over the edge with her eating. The sound of her teeth scraping the fork and the smacking, and it doesn't ruin the episode, but it sure caught my attention. So as they bed down for the night, Ellie asks Joel if they're safe, if he's sure no one's going to find them. And Joel says, yeah, of course. And then we see a little bit of the character growth of Joel showing up here. In the game, Joel does eventually grow to care for Ellie. He is cold towards her at the beginning of the game, as he is to everyone. And as they travel across the country, and it takes months, he warms up to her and they form a relationship. And this is where this begins to happen, and that Joel stays up all night, apparently. And I assume it's because he fears not just that someone might show up and might find them and kill them, but the protective nature of a father is entering into him. And it's not just about staying vigilant against bad people, but protecting Ellie. The next morning they wake up and Ellie does something else that's really annoying. I just don't understand why they want her to just be so intensely annoying. She rolls over in her sleeping bag, sees the percolating coffee. You know, the coffee percolators that you take on a camping trip. She flips that lid open, coffee splattering everywhere, and she acts like it's the worst thing she's ever seen, or it's just, and I don't know why they want to make her so annoying. So they end up driving into a city. I don't remember which city it is. Leave a comment if you remember what it was and let me know. But they come across a freeway underpass that has been blocked off, and they decide they need to go back to a previous exit and find their way around to the freeway another route. Why they don't drive up the berm, they've already established that the vehicle that they're in can travel over fairly easy off-road terrain. They don't, though. They go back and they get lost in the city. Again, another scene from the game. They see someone crying out for help. It looks like he's wounded, but Joel knows it's a trap. He guns it and they crash into a storefront. Shootout ensues and Joel has Ellie crawling through a hole into the next building and hide. Joel kills the two guys that are there, but a third guy catches him by surprise and is attacking him, and more than likely will kill him given the chance. So Ellie, having the pistol that she snuck out from Bill's place, crawls back through the hole and shoots the guy in the back, saving Joel's life. But the guy, he starts to cry and he starts to beg for his life and he starts to ask for his mother. And it becomes a painful scene. And I understand the concept of killing a person is a terrible idea, a terrible concept. But he would have killed Joel. And if he had seen Ellie, probably would have killed her too. Is it necessary for us to feel that sort of empathy for someone who would have killed them without hesitation? She shoots him in the back and Joel sends her back into the hole where she was and dispatches him with a knife. Another little game insert. What do you call that? It's not an Easter egg because it's an obvious thing, but another insert from the game. In order to proceed forward in the storyline, you have to move a filing cabinet and get a door open. If you haven't played the game, no big deal, but if you had played the game, you were like, oh, look at that. That's pretty cool. After dispatching of this guy who would have killed them, they decide to go on the run. They need to find a place to hide because whoever these guys were with are probably going to come looking for them soon. And they don't take a single thing from the truck. They don't take a single thing from the truck. All they have is Ellie's gun, what she has in her backpack, including a flashlight for Joel, and Joel's rifle that he has. They don't go back to the vehicle for anything. And later on in the episode, the people who are part of the militia or whatever mention that the truck is fully loaded. Like, it's got a lot of gear. And for whatever reason, Joel and Ellie just leave it all behind. Can't even grab one thing. So now we meet Kathleen. Kathleen is the leader of the local town. I don't know what they are. Militia, bandits, marauders, good guys, bad guys. We don't know yet. But she is the leader of this group of burly, rugged, tough men. You know, this tiny, soft-spoken woman. And they're trying to make her seem like a badass. She killed somebody in cold blood. Lifelong friend, apparently. But he was a snitch, an informant to the feds. And that caused her to lose family members, I guess. Here's also where we get a mention of Henry and Sam, characters from the game, who play a pretty good role in the game. They're in the game for quite a bit. There are people in a car behind me, and I feel kind of silly and dumb. Oh, it's the driver's school people. It's probably my daughter. Probably like, what is your dad doing in there? Now, there's no real explanation as to who Kathleen is yet. We just know that she's leading this group and that they're angry at Henry and that she doesn't like Fedra. They find the bodies of the guys that Joel and Ellie killed, discover the truck. She seems to think Henry is the leader or some sort of informant for the feds as well, and that Joel's vehicle, which I mentioned earlier was pretty loaded for bear, was his doing, that he had called in some sort of backup or reinforcements. They don't explain who she is, why she's the leader, why all these large men follow her and do what she says. We'll wait to see what comes about with that. But it is extra story that we'll see if it proves to be fruitful, if it's good, if it's a good addition, or if it's just a waste of time. It also seems to be backstory for Henry and Sam that wasn't in the game, and if it's, again, unnecessary backstory, there's no need for it. So then we cut back to Joel and Ellie, and they're hiding out in a building, and Joel is, once again, in his emotions. He's all emotional about what's happened with Ellie having to shoot the guy in the back. But this is the scene that surprises me about the gun situation. Joel tells her that it's terrible that someone her age should have to do this sort of thing, but there is a recognition that sometimes it is the case that even young people have to do things to survive. And he asks to see her grip on the pistol. If you watched the last review of episode 3, I had a couple issues with gun handling in that review. One of them being Bill's teacup grip when he meets Frank. Maybe not a big deal to most people, but it bugged me. And what bugs me even more is that in this episode, in this scene, Joel teaches Ellie how to properly grip a pistol. And it just drove me crazy to see that the writers knew about this and just let that scene slide in the last episode. And this is a real question. Was that a purposeful thing they did in that episode? Did the writers or the director say to Ron Swanson, I don't remember the actor's name, did they say to Ron Swanson, hey, you're playing Bill, and Bill is gay, so hold the gun like a gay person would? Because they know how to properly hold the gun, Joel teaches Ellie in this scene. Why was it not shown in episode 3? Was it on purpose? That's a serious question. Or did they just not notice it and they just let it slide by? That's a possibility. But anyways, Joel shows Ellie how to properly hold a pistol, tells her to be safe with it, stick it in the backpack, don't stick it in your back pocket. She ends up sticking it in her jacket pocket. I'm sure that's foreshadowing for something that's going to happen in the next episode. So then we cut back to Kathleen, and she is searching for Henry and Sam. And a guy with a pretty nice beard finds her and says, hey, we found something. And they take her to a attic of some sort, and there are pictures that someone drew, Sam and Henry as superheroes. They say we got to find them, and they don't really touch on why. By the way, I did read that episode 5 is coming out on Friday. It'll be an earlier release because the Super Bowl is happening on Sunday. And then the guy with the nice beard also shows Kathleen something else. They go into a room and they see a broken portion of the ground. It's caved in. And as they talk about it, what it is, what's going on, it moves as though something is underneath, something large is underneath. Beard guy says, should we tell everyone? Kathleen says, no, let's deal with Henry and Sam first, and then we'll let everyone know that there's some who knows what underneath the ground. I have the feeling that what she will be presented as will be an anti-government extremist, and they might even play into race with Henry and Sam. And we'll see if I'm good at forecasting anything, because I kind of missed the gun thing. Kinda. There's still time to change their tone on that one. But I'm also worried about unnecessary backstory with Henry and Sam. Are we going to see an entire episode of flashback of Henry and Sam? Or is that just reserved for Bill and Frank's little love story? So again, this is a short episode, short review. It ends with Joel and Ellie finding a place to stay the night. They break into what looks like an old hotel room, and Joel spreads glass on the ground as a warning system. In case anyone tries to sneak up on them, they'll step on the glass. Ellie says, "Hey, I've noticed you're not very good at hearing. Are you going to hear this?" Joel says, "Of course. I'll be fine. It'll be fine." It isn't fine. As they lay down to sleep, Ellie tells a joke. One of the puns from the book. Did you know that diarrhea is hereditary? It runs in your genes. And it's a really touching scene of them laughing together. And it's that laughter you get when you're trying to fall asleep and someone says something dumb and you can't stop laughing. For all of the emotional manipulation of the last episode, they wanted us to get invested in these two characters that have nothing to do with anything. This scene in itself topped all of it. These are two characters whose story arc we've seen growing slowly over a few episodes, and their connection is starting to be made in this moment. I felt drawn in and connected because of this scene, because of this episode, to these two characters, even more so. So they fall asleep, fade to black, fade back in. Joel's sleeping, eyes closed. We hear Ellie's muffled voice calling his name. He wakes up, sees someone holding a gun on her, looks up and sees a young boy. The superhero mask painted on his face, holding a gun on him. This is Henry and Sam from the game, and then the episode ends. And I thought it was another good episode. I'm glad they've returned from wherever the hell the last episode went. This sunny, happy Big Tarvey commercial. I know it's a weird thing to say, but I'm glad they got back to the hopeless post-apocalyptic world. I mean, that's what I tuned in for. Before I go, I also wanted to say, please go check out my Spreadshirt page. I will leave the link in the description. It's just a place where I'm trying to sell some t-shirts. I've made some designs. Once again, I am wearing one now. If you can see that. You don't have to get the tank top. You can choose to put the design on a t-shirt or a sweatshirt, whatever you like. You can even get a sticker. But head over there. I'd appreciate it. Maybe buy something. As it is, I still have coffee left because it's really not that good. But I'm going to call it quits anyways. Have a good one. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, share it, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment if you have anything to say. Thanks for watching.